Adolf Hitler was one of the most infamous figures in modern history, known for his role as the leader of Nazi Germany during World War II and his brutal policies of persecution and genocide. Born on April 20, 1889, in Braunau am Inn, Austria, Hitler spent much of his youth in Vienna, where he failed to secure admission to the prestigious Academy of Fine Arts. After moving to Munich in 1913, Hitler became involved in the nationalist politics of the time, joining the German Workers' Party, DAP, in 1919. He soon became the party's leader and renamed it the National Socialist German Workers' Party, NSDAP, or Nazi Party. In 1923, Hitler attempted to overthrow the Bavarian government in the Beer Hall Putsch, but the coup failed, and he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for treason. While in prison, Hitler wrote his manifesto, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, which outlined his plans for a Nazi Germany. He believed in the supremacy of the Aryan race and promoted anti-Semitism, blaming Jews for Germany's problems. Hitler also sought to expand German territory, including the conquest of Eastern Europe, and eliminate all opposition to his regime. After his release from prison in 1924, Hitler worked tirelessly to rebuild the Nazi Party, using propaganda and intimidation to gain support. The party's message of nationalism and anti-Semitism resonated with many Germans who were disillusioned with the government and the Treaty of Versailles, which had imposed harsh penalties on Germany after World War I. In 1933, Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. He wasted no time in consolidating his power, using the Reichstag fire in February of that year as a pretext for suspending civil liberties and rounding up political opponents. In March, he passed the Enabling Act, which gave him dictatorial powers to rule by decree. Hitler then began the process of transforming Germany into a totalitarian state, eliminating all opposition and establishing a cult of personality around himself. He also began implementing his policies of racial purity, which included the sterilization of undesirables, and the forced euthanasia of those deemed unfit to live. Hitler's aggressive foreign policy led to the annexation of Austria in 1938 and the invasion of Czechoslovakia later that year. In 1939, Hitler signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, allowing him to invade Poland without fear of Soviet intervention. This action led to the outbreak of World War II, as Britain and France declared war on Germany in September 1939. Hitler's military campaigns were marked by a brutal disregard for human life, particularly among those he deemed inferior. The invasion of the Soviet Union in 1941 led to the deaths of millions of Soviet civilians and soldiers, and the Holocaust, the systematic extermination of 6 million Jews and other groups deemed undesirable, was carried out under Hitler's orders. Despite early successes, including the rapid conquest of much of Europe, Hitler's military fortunes began to decline by 1942. The tide of the war turned against Germany, and Allied forces began making significant gains in both Europe and North Africa. Hitler's increasingly erratic leadership and refusal to acknowledge the gravity of the situation only hastened Germany's defeat. In April 1945, with Allied forces closing in on Berlin, Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. His death marked the end of Nazi Germany and the beginning of a long process of rebuilding and reconciliation in Europe. The horrors of the Holocaust, which had been carried out under his orders, ensured that Hitler's name would forever be associated with the darkest chapters in human history.